bloody hell, that elephant in the room, it's not going away, is it? So today I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room. I'm going to talk about what absolutely undeniably is the biggest I told you so in history, and what's going to happen over the next coming few days, weeks and months as the dam bursts and truth, the ugly truth, rears its ugly head. And tomorrow, it's a 2-part mini-series this, so that's part 1 today. And tomorrow, I'm going to do a video about what I see as quite clear, unhinged and insane beliefs and kind of behaviour really within the truther community. Much of which it really pisses me off. So it's trying to find the sweet spot really, and that's what I'm going to try and do. Sorry, with these 2 videos we need to remain as objective, as calm, and as composed, I think, over these next few days, weeks, months, and I think days, weeks, and months is where it's at now. I think things are going to reach a fever pitch by the summer. Anyway, hope that makes sense. So if you like my content and if you like today's video, please do hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell so you don't miss tomorrow's video as well. Okay, so elephant in the room. We all know what it is, don't we? You know, excess deaths have been spiking right across the world since the you-know-what. And, you know, the you-know-what is increasingly is revealing itself to be the reason, the main reason. And I have heard a lot of people saying it's the biggest I told you so in history. Sorry, my hair's a bit wild. And I totally agree with that. I mean, it is. It really, really is, isn't it? And for a time, I suppose there was a sense of, what was it? A sense of what? Knowing that we were on the right side of history. I was right. They were wrong. But I don't derive any satisfaction at all from that now. In fact, I actually feel embarrassed on behalf of the people who believed, who complied, and who fell for what has been the most wicked deception in all of recorded human history. Think back to the madness, particularly 2020. We had a situation where people were willingly locking themselves in their own homes. People were going to pop-up test centres to have something shoved up their nose, even though they were perfectly healthy. We had people going out with these stupid pieces of cloth over their face. Many of them would walk into a pub or a restaurant, let's not forget this, with their cloth over their face. They'd sit down for 2 hours in the company of many other people, particularly August 2020 with that help out to eat out when all the pubs and restaurants were absolutely packed. They take the mask off for a couple of hours, eat their food, have a chat, do a little bit of socialising, and then they put the mask back on to walk out. Don't forget how insane these people were. We had other people who were jumping out the way of people on the street because, of course, people were just walking vectors of disease, weren't they? And that's even before we get to the point where the state, on behalf of very, very dark vested interests, and we all know who they are, ordered its citizens to go and get a medical procedure. And a majority, not a massive majority, in fact, a smaller majority than they'd like you to think, went and complied and did that. Some on multiple occasions, some continue to do it now. However, all of the, it's not even evidence. We can prove now. We can prove, because it's been admitted by those very, very same dark, shadowy figures, organisations, non-governmental organisations. They have admitted that the whole thing was based on a lie. Everything from the initial, from the way the initial propaganda was managed, to how the propaganda and fear was spread, to the way the statistics were manipulated and lied about and exaggerated, to the non-pharmaceutical interventions that were inflicted on people, only a few of whom didn't comply with because they could see right through the insanity of it. Of course, to the actual medical procedure itself. Let's not forget as well, this all started with 3 weeks to flatten the curve. And as time's gone on, and as we knew, and how did we know? Right, this is how we knew. We knew in two ways. We saw logically through the lie, because we could see it was a lie. We could see it was an overt lie. We could see what they were saying didn't make sense. We could see the statistics didn't make sense, were flawed. We could see that the things that we were being asked to do had no precedent and made no sense. We could see that people who had a different opinion were being censored. And we were being told, I mean, don't forget, we were being told about this new normal. That was the biggest giveaway at all. We saw the dancing doctors and nurses on TikTok and Facebook, didn't we? We saw the videos showing a completely different set of circumstances in hospitals than what we were being told in mainstream media. The biggest thing was the censorship. Remember the Great Barrington Declaration in September, October 2020? This video might get pulled, but I don't care. From the censorship to the propaganda, to the lies, to the fear, to the mandates, to the coercement, to the way that society was completely re-engineered and went down a truly depraved and dark path. Everything was built on a lie. Everything was built on a lie. And within that lie, there were so many other lies. And the reason I often talk about truth, lies, and the truth is, I don't know. I feel like I don't have a right to say what the truth is. And I don't know if anybody does. Truth is very different to the truth. That's how we personally show up in the world, really. The truth, I don't know, but I know what lies are. Lies identify themselves very, 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 very quickly. And all it took was 10 minutes of research back in March, April 2020. And only a few people did that. Lies reveal themselves very, very quickly. And the other way, you don't even need to reason or rationalise with what's gone on in the last couple of years. You can feel it here. Your heart, your intuition, your soul, whatever you want to call it, your spirit. Something's not right here. Something doesn't feel right. And something wasn't right. Something was very, 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 very wrong. The biggest giveaway of all, I think, was the censorship. As I say, Great Barrington Declaration, probably the best example. And we're talking more than 2 years ago now. And we're talking 3 years since all this started. You think about all the damage that's been done to society, the people who've died. And I know all about that because my dad died after getting the Pfizer booster. Died of a heart attack leading to cardiac arrest. Dead. Perfectly healthy. Stone dead. And the number of people now who are being caught up, who've been affected, and lives destroyed, lives damaged, injuries, illnesses. And those very same people, whether they were the orchestrators and the propagandists or the people who fell for it, many of whom enjoyed it. A lot of people did enjoy it. A lot of people enjoyed it. Let's not forget. It gave certain pathetic people some purpose to their life. It gave other people an excuse to be told. A lot of people just like following rules. You know, they like authoritarianism. It gave a lot of other people a chance to just sit in the back garden and get pissed for 6 months. Those very same people who were virtue signalling and who were crying out about COVID deaths for a long, long time, months and months and months. Do you ever hear them now? Talking about the people who are dying as a result of the you-know-what. Do you? Because there are far more people dying now right across the world. The excess death figures are absolutely horrific beyond belief. No, silent, aren't they? Absolutely silent because they don't care. You know, they don't care. Because if they did care, then they talk about it. The ugly truth, and it is an ugly, ugly truth. Or let's say the horrendous lies. Because as I said, the truth, hard. The terrible lies, they've been exposed for a long, long time. But what's happening now is that more and more and more people are opening their eyes to it. And it's so sad that we had to get to the point where so many people had to be either personally affected or one of their family members or friends had to be directly affected for them to finally acknowledge that what we'd been saying all along was true. Everything. And you know, I've always got room for doubt in my mind. I always do. Any subject, I'll listen to anybody, and I will. I'll always try and back up my argument, and you know, with statistics and evidence and logic, or develop some ideas, some avenues of thought. But I'd never ever say I'm right and you're wrong, apart from one thing: this COVID bollocks, and the reason is because everything was built on lies. Everything. It's the only time I think in my life where I've confidently said, I am right, you are wrong. You're wrong. And free speech, which we don't have, and I bet you this video will be taken down. Well, let's see if it is. Freedom of speech is freedom to speak for everybody, no matter who you are. That's what free speech is. And I have really, really learned now. I've seen through a historical lens. History now has taken on more a deeper sense of understanding for me, because I have seen what's happened in the past happen in my own country. You go back to some of my earlier videos in summer 2020, where I talked a lot about historical precedent for what was going on. I have learned that freedom of speech is literally the difference between life and death. That's why, let me say that again, freedom of speech is, or can be, literally the difference between life and death. I know that because my dad died of the Pfizer booster. And that's because he didn't have enough doubt in his mind, because there weren't enough people espousing my view, which was the correct view. Yes, the correct view. The correct view. Why was it correct? Because it was pointing out that what he was being told was a lie. Everything leading up to it was a lie. That was a lie. Freedom of speech exposes lies. That's why propagandists and tyrants censor information or people and individuals who say things that goes against their narrative. Freedom of speech is the difference between life and death. I know that. I personally have experienced that. I know that. But what's happening is, I may have talked about this before on previous videos, all the work that's been done tirelessly and relentlessly and bravely by so many people across the world, and definitely within our country, England, where there's been a real fanatical resistance, which is exactly what's been required. All that work, we didn't really see tangible rewards for a long, long time. But imagine an exponential curve, which goes like that, very, very flat, very, very slow progress. And then what's that exponential curve of? People speaking up, people acknowledging finally, and things changing. Well, we're just at the bottom of that exponential curve now. You know, the dam is breaking as we speak. And try as they might, they just cannot stop this now. It cannot be stopped. And that's the thing with lies. They'll always be exposed. You know, they have tried their best to censor. 95% of the internet has been censored. It has, but that 5% was enough. And there's leaks springing all over the place, and try as they might, whether it's with Andrew Bridgen or whether it's with David Icke or whoever you want to, You know, all of us who've been speaking out have been censored. I'm just using some prominent examples there. Plug a leak there, and there's another one springing up here, and then there's another one springing up here, and another one, and another one, and another one, and another one. And people are seeing it. Finally, they're seeing that we were right. We were right. We were the ones who were exposing these lies. We were the ones who were trying to save people's lives. That was us. That was us. It wasn't them. It was us. And all of a sudden, there are hundreds of thousands, probably millions of people who are, I think now, are seeing content from people like me. It's appearing on, they're seeing things particularly on Twitter. And whatever you want to say about Elon Musk, right, I don't particularly have a view. All I'll say is there more information, and are there more views and opinions on Twitter now than there were a couple of months ago? Absolutely yes. Is that helping people to reorientate how they're seeing the last couple of years? Yes. It's all that matters. Forget about if he's controlled opposition and all that. I'm going to talk about this tomorrow. Twitter has been pivotal, actually, in the last couple of months in allowing these lies to be exposed to a wider audience. And people who are, whatever you want to call them, the fast asleep, the normies, you know, the sheep, I don't know. They're seeing what we've seen. And even more so, they're experiencing what I've experienced, death of a loved one. Because it is so evil. And it is so all-consuming that it's now, I can confidently assert, affecting absolutely every single person, the elephant in the room, whether they want to admit it or not. But many of them, yeah, they're coming round. They're coming round. Now, where does that leave us? Well, I just get a sense now that anger's really started to build. You know, there's still a lot of inertia. Talked about this before, where people, they know something's up, and now they realise that the thing that is up is the very, very thing that they've participated in themselves. But as time's gone on, and as that logic and reason is returning, and the full horror and terror of the situation and what they've inflicted on themselves, as they begin to acknowledge it, that inertia is giving way to anger. And I predict that by this summer, things will reach fever pitch. I just don't know how that's going to translate into what's going to be going on the ground, so to speak. Mass civil unrest. I don't know, a violent uprising. It can't be ruled out. You can't rule that out. I think you'd be naive to rule that out. I saw a video the other day, this week, of Matt Hancock being challenged thing on the London Underground. I mean, it doesn't take too much of a leap of imagination to think what could happen if that type of thing escalates. I'm not going to go further down that road because the video will get pulled if I say what I really wanted to say, how I would deal with individuals such as that. But I'm sure you can. I'm a very non-violent, peace-loving person. But yeah, you know what I'm saying. And he's not the only one. But more and more people now are starting to feel that rage. So the biggest I told you so, yes. And there's been times in the last couple of years where sometimes the only comfort I've drawn in this awful, awful time that we live has been to know that I am right. I'm on the right side of history, that I have stood up against tyrants and tyranny and totalitarianism. And I have defended the rights. Threefold. The rights of those who do deserve to have their freedom and their human rights, the likes of probably you if you're watching this, those who've taken a stand. Also defended the rights of those who really don't deserve the freedom at all because they're selfish, often narcissistic, wedded to ideology, lazy, just stupid, and have no concern no even inkling of the fact that they have a responsibility to protect freedoms as well. We've been defending freedom for those people, and most of all, defending freedoms for the children and those yet to be born, because they need us to speak up for them and to defend them, and to ideally leave a better world when we go than the one we had ourselves, you know. I have taken comfort sometimes from that. I have been able to sleep at night, and I've been able to look at myself in the mirror and say, Dave, you did the right thing. Sometimes that's been the only time, the only crumb of comfort I've been able to derive sometimes has been that. But do I now feel, take a sense of satisfaction from being able to say I was right? No, I don't. I really don't. And I think I feel embarrassed on behalf of those who are finally realising now. I really do. And also, what good is it going to do for us to trumpet that we were right and they were wrong? It's not going to do anything, because what's now needed from us, and I know this because I've gone through this. See, my dad died as a result of this horrific evil. But I do feel now I've got a better, or more constructive lid on, or take on my anger, and I am angry, and why wouldn't I be? But us leaders, and that's what we are, anyone who's been active, who's spoken up, who stood up and said no, is a leader in their own little way. We're needed now, because God only knows when this inertia fully gives way to anger, which it is. And then when we reach the top of that exponential curve and that fever pitch, which I believe will be this summer, with the long nights and the warmer weather, it's going to be ripe for mass civil disobedience. But I don't think that term will do justice to potentially what could happen. Potentially. I say potentially. This is why I've always been such an advocate of conversation, because we didn't need to get to this point. We didn't need to get to a point where people go from believing something to all of a sudden realising that they're being the victims of the worst evil, you know, ever known to man. It's basically like that, because they haven't got the time to process it like we have, to unpick it and to come to terms with it. So for that reason, anyone who can manage their anger, who can keep a calm head, continues to show that leadership, who can understand the past and what might happen next through the lens of what's actually going on in the world right now, we're needed, you know. So I'd like to get your thoughts really on everything I've said there. You know, it really does feel in the last, since 2023 started, and I know different people have got different theories about kind of controlled leaking of information. I can certainly entertain that theory, or whether it is the lies just unveiling and revealing themselves, because there's that many of them and it's so huge. That was never not going to happen. We were always going to get to this point. It's happened a bit slower than I would have liked, but we're here. But I'd like to get your thoughts on everything I've said in this video. What you think might happen next. Tell me about what you think about the elephant in the room. How, in your lives, what is your experience of people in your life, about how they may be reevaluating things? Are they starting to realise? Just let me know anything in the comments. And tomorrow I'll be back with part 2 of this mini series, because on the flip side, I also want to say something about what I see as the very unhelpful nature of a lot of what's going on in the alternative media, the doom, the negativity, and a lot of infantile behaviour as well, which I think is born out of fear. So, okay, I will be back tomorrow. Let me know what you think. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.